typical college-going age for us. But it also helps to create a very rich and diverse learning opportunity for our domestic students that are here, that may give them opportunities to interact with people from other places and other cultures that they may not otherwise have that opportunity to have. But it's also important for Grey County, both in economic contributions, while the students are here as students. Currently, the Government of Canada statistics from about the 2016 is the latest time we have, but they estimate that in Ontario, it's about a $27.4 thousand contribution to GDP per international student that's here while they're a student, but also afterwards as potential permanent residents and members of our workforce after they graduate. It is, however, a bit more challenging to recruit international students to the less densely populated areas of our province, and the issues that other members of our communities face with affordable housing, transportation, are particularly acute for international students who come in and have to get their feet on the ground and get moving and start classes and do things very quickly, while also facing cultural differences and sometimes language barriers as well. They also, can speak to needing help with social and cultural integration with their community. And we do, we feel that if we help them have a more positive experience with the community in those first few months that they're here with us, that they are more apt to want to stay in the community as members of our workforce after they graduate. I can speak a bit to what our demographics of our current international students are. For the 1920 academic year, we have 66 international students. About 26 of those are in first year. International students tend to come for 2 or 3 year programs. The majority of those this year, are about 77% of them, are in our power engineering and technology program. And the next most populated program for international students is in our practical nursing program with 14%, and the remainder are in 6 different programs. For the 2021 year, we're hoping to increase our first year intake to 76 students, and those students again then would be here for 2 to 3 years. And our enrollment targets for that are to bring 8 international students into our marine programs, 40 in our power engineering technology programs, 4 in our early childhood education programs, and 24 in our practical nursing programs. For 21-22 year going forward, we would like to bring in, it adds up to about 100, slightly over 100 students, with 16 in marine, 40 in power engineering technology again, 4 in early childhood education, 24 in practical nursing, and 23 in our acute and complex care. In an acute and complex care program, that program is specifically developed for internationally trained registered nurses, and it gives them the opportunity, the training here, to allow them to become certified to work in Ontario as nurses. While students are here, they can work up to 20 hours a week. And so the students that would come into the ACCA, the Acute and Complex Care Program, are allowed to work up to 20 hours a week and are eligible to work as PSWs while they're completing their their Ontario certification for nursing. So that also helps to fill an acute shortage that we have in the area as well. In terms of demographics, at the moment, about 3/4 of our international students come from India, and the remainder come from 12 different countries, what we have right now. In terms of gender, at the moment, we have 82% male international students and 18% female international students. As we begin recruiting more into the health and early childhood education sectors, we expect to see that number with equal numbers will balance out. And in terms of age, 63% of our international students are age 23 or older. So they're not necessarily, and I think you can speak to the people that were there and met some of our international students. Many of them come already with degrees and professional accreditation in their countries of origin that they're coming from. So they're not they require a different level of service than our direct entry from high school 18-year-old student who's coming from somewhere locally. It's a different, they require help with different types of things. And not necessarily, they're not necessarily looking for a college residence experience. They're more apt to want to be in the community and part of that. Overall in Ontario, $6.4 billion in GDP comes from per year from international students. And the latest data that we have aggregated all across Ontario, post-secondary sector, was 233,000 international students, and that's increased since that. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, that could be our future workforce, as I mentioned last week. So, Councillor Millen, you had some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and thank you for your presentation, ladies. I recognize the benefit and challenges of hosting and integrating new students to the area. My concern and my question relates to a note in the report that the amount is for a 22-month contract, so to speak.
1 year, 12 months.
12 month, 1 year. Okay, so it must be a typo or something. Anyway, is it the intent that if this is successful, that we would be asked to fund ongoing, or would Georgian then assume the balance of whatever the costs are for that position?
Thank you. So no, it would not, the intent is not for it to be ongoing per se. Where the work needs to be done is really in establishing the framework and the connections and putting some programs and initiatives in place to get going and helping to build those, with the idea being that afterwards we can sustain them ourselves in-house. And with that, but we do already provide a significant amount of resources to our international students in terms of academic support and the other student services. What we're really looking for is that help in the community integration part and helping to establish that framework, get those partnerships going, get those initiatives in place, and then we believe we can sustain them after that. Okay.
Thank you, Warden McQueen. I went to a seminar about 7 years ago and was told there was 28,000 new Canadians moving into Peel Region a year, and if we could just get 1% per year, I'd be, we'd all be very happy. Selwyn was there, Kim was there, I think I was the only other one. We had 3 really neat kids present to us, 2 from India, 1 from Nigeria, I think. Get off the plane, get a ride from a friend in Brampton, come up, show up to class. Oh, your class started an hour ago. Oh, can I get something to eat in the way? Okay, now I've got to look for a place to live, and it's 4:30 in the afternoon. Drive back to Brampton, come up a couple of days. Somebody was stuck basically in a broom closet for a week, as I recall, not being able to find a place to live, to get their feet settled. You think about it. I was a 19-year-old kid that moved to Edmonton, and I had a cousin or brother, somebody that was there to catch me. Coming from around the world to, a pretty white little community that we have, and where do you begin? What are your connections? There's none. The bus just shut down at 6. You start thinking about things that we take for granted. Then we've got our friends here, we've got our high school friends here, we've got a friend in the next community that we really, hearing these kids, we really need to do something to get something set up that allows the college to welcome these kids. And you're absolutely right. Didn't we just have an announcement yesterday or a couple of days ago that unemployment is at 2.5% or something, 2.4%? We need labor, we need people moving into our community, and from around the world is a great opportunity, and Georgian College is a great opportunity, not only for our kids, obviously, to train here and learn something, what's going on in the rest of the world from the students that are coming in, but those students can come here, they can raise their children, they can we all learn from somebody new and somebody different from around the world when we talk to them. It's a great opportunity. So I wish everyone could have been there in the room to hear these three kids and some of their frustrations and opportunities and how positive they are about our community once they get here. And again, engineering degree before he got here, and this is just a chance to enhance, and I think it's pretty important. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hicks, did you have a comment?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Warden. I just want to echo the comments of Councillor Boddy, how impactful that presentation was that we heard from those three international students. And I want them to know that that impact is going to have some results. I'm really happy to see this proposal coming forward today. A proposal that, by the way, you can't do this off the side of your desk. We need somebody dedicated to this task. I would dare say that if you looked up the definition of brave, you would see those three students and all of the international students that take that leap and come, to Owen Sound, Ontario, from Nigeria or from India, and just take on an opportunity. It's really quite blows me away. Yes, they need help with affordable housing. Yes, they need help with that transportation piece. They have evening classes and can't get to their classes. But the one probably most impactful piece for me was hearing their needs and concerns around social isolation. And some of them feeling, I've never experienced, for example, maybe winter before, and I'm coming to Owen Sound, and I'm in a school, and the language is different, and the culture is different. People do things differently here, and they really want to be a part of the community, and many of them are feeling that social isolation. So I'm hoping that we can really address that, that we can really focus on that mentorship piece as well. In short, these people need to feel love, and they need to have a positive experience of our community when they come here. Why? Because that's what's going to make them stay, and we really need them to stay. So I'm really excited to see this proposal come forward. Thank you very much for it, and I will be supporting it.
Well, seeing there's no other questions, thank you very much for your presentation. We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We'll recess for now for lunch. You too. County Council, and we'll call this meeting back to order. Going on to our agenda, we'll start off with 7A and Savannah. I think you're going to speak to 7A. So welcome, come on up. Let's get some more light in here. Somebody's got an idea. That's right.
I'm going to get better at this microphone. Thank you very much. If I can, I'd like to invite, oh, sorry. Okay, now, okay, thank you very much. If I can, I'd like to bring Jennifer Christie up as well, because I haven't been able to formally introduce her to County Council. So, Jennifer. Excellent. So Jennifer is the program development manager that we hired in October to see Catapult Grey Bruce really come to fruition. So this report's going to outline specifically the funding for FastLane Plus, but we'll give you a little update as to where Catapult Grey Bruce is. It's a new name that we're sharing around council chambers. Until this point, you've heard us talk about the generator. This is the generator that now has a new name that's a little bit more fun and catchy, yes. Hopefully has great marketing potential to it. So as you know, when we brought forward the business plan and the updates, we've been talking about the private sector working in tandem with us to really bring that support to Sydenham campus as a project, because we know that business accelerators do not work when they're run by government. They need to be run by the private sector. That is how every regional innovation center across the province has been set up. So that was really important to us. And we were fortunate enough to have a great group of individuals from the private sector who have excellent experience in the business world, are recently retired or retiring, come together and actually donate the funds to make this happen as well. So this has not been any Grey County funding towards this project. It's been all private sector donations that we have received. So as you know, through Sydenham campus, we're working to develop that one-stop shop for entrepreneurial activity, working with the Business Enterprise Center as that first stop, and then progressing through to Catapult to the Blue Water Angels as a potential financing option for a business, or other financing potentials as well. And the private sector support really truly is key to this mandate. We cannot do it without them. So over the past 2 years, they have been donating these funds. I believe the figure is just over $72,000 that they have raised so far, and that money was very much earmarked for 3 different areas. One, to hire Jennifer here so that we could get her in place and take over to get Catapult Grey Bruce actually running, to become an organization. So in October when she began, October is also when they were formally incorporated as a not-for-profit organization. The other piece of that funding was to help with the marketing and the branding and all of that work that needs to go in so that there is a marketable name to go forward and people know who they are and they can be found on Google, because right now they don't exist, but we'll get there in the new year. And then the third piece, and probably the largest piece, is doing the funding for the license of FastLane Plus program. And this is a program that is from Innovation Guelph. Innovation Guelph is one of the regional entrepreneurship centers or innovation centers in the province that is funded by the province and the feds. And they were really willing to work with us because of the private sector drive and because we're rural. And that's what really sets this apart. Most innovation centers don't want to license out their programs. They want to deliver them so that we have to go to them and use their services and pay for their services, which means we're always sending our entrepreneurs out of the region. And we don't want to do that. It's not as feasible when it's a 2-hour drive everywhere to get the services. So they agreed to license their program for delivery locally so that our entrepreneurs can benefit from it. But just as all of their mandates, there's no restriction to where the businesses can come. So we can now attract businesses from the GTA and other areas if they like the program we have and actually come here to Owen Sound to take that, which is really nice. Part of the work that we've been doing through this, though, is that Catapult is a standalone organization. They are set up as a standalone not-for-profit, so it didn't make sense for this license to be in Grey County's name, knowing that we were helping that initial startup, but moving forward, they're going to be a standalone organization. So we worked closely with Michael to figure out exactly what that looks like, and he came up with the granting potential to be able to take those funds that were earmarked specifically for this program and grant it to Catapult Grey Bruce so that they can put the license in their name. They are fully responsible for all delivery, and then it can go forward from there. So that's what we're proposing. But if Jennifer could just take a couple minutes to tell you a little bit more about Catapult Grey Bruce so that we can bring that update, that would be amazing.
Thank you very much, Savannah, and good afternoon, councillors and warden. It's my pleasure just to update you on the status of Catapult Grey Bruce. So this is the new name for the not-for-profit organization that has been founded by the private sector to really empower established entrepreneurs in the Grey Bruce region with the resources and connections and space in both a literal sense, but also figuratively, to be able to take their businesses to the next level and really grow their business, but also grow the economy within our region with the hope that not only will that growth sustain jobs, but will also contribute to what we've heard a lot about today and attracting our young people or retaining our young people in this region to stay and work in our communities. The organization has been incorporated, as Savannah mentioned, and our new name, Catapult Grey Bruce, has been registered, and we're working to develop a new logo, which is coming along very nicely, and I'm very excited that we'll be able to share that early in the new year, as well as launch with our website that will detail some of the initial services that we will offer. The FastLane Plus program is the first accelerator program that we'll offer, so that will be available to established businesses within Grey Bruce region who want to take their business to that next level. So this program, it's not geared at startups. It is geared at businesses that are looking to grow. They will establish a criteria for the types of businesses that we want to see be part of that program. At Innovation Guelph, they do have set criteria and some sectors that they target that program towards, and I think we'll look to do something similar here in learning from a number of different regional innovation centers and also private sector or private equity accelerator. It seems these kinds of things happen very organically as well. So we're planning to target some specific sectors, agriculture and technology, food processing, advanced manufacturing, possibly health technology being sectors, but as we've heard from many of the other centers, often what you start with planning, you end up learning along the way and working with the businesses that are in the community that are growing, and sometimes we don't know exactly what sector or who those people will be. But as I said, initially we'll be looking at those sectors that are the key drivers of our economy here in the region. In addition to that, we're looking at other types of events that we could offer that will bring the entrepreneurs in our community together. We really believe in the vision of Sydenham campus, and in particularly in working closely with the Business Enterprise Center to create this one-stop shop for entrepreneurs. So no matter where you're at what stage of your business, there'll be a place that you can go and you can find all the resources and connections that you need to be able to support where you're wanting to take your business. So we're really excited about this, and thank Council for the support thus far to get us to where we've been in holding these funds for the private sector, and appreciate you supporting the motion today. So thank you very much.
Sounds exciting, Jennifer, and I think the CEO would like to add.
Jennifer, before you get away, I think you come to us with some really great experience that makes you a wonderful fit for Grey and Bruce. Do you mind, I'm putting you totally on the spot here, do you mind telling the council here a little bit about your background?
Thank you, Kim. I would love to do that. It's funny, I had on my sheet my little bio and a note to talk about myself, and we never do that, right? So, I am a Bruce County native, but like many people in this region, grew up working in Owen Sound and traveling across the border quite a bit. I come from a dairy and grain farm just outside Tara. My family is still actively farming there. I did my agribusiness degree at Guelph, and a couple years ago completed an MBA through the Ivy School of Business. And my last couple of years, my experience has been in the nonprofit sector. I've worked for 4-H Canada, planning a global summit, and then developing their fundraising and alumni programming. And prior to that, I worked at John Deere for 10 years in the marketing and sales division, as well as consulting with the biggest dealers across Canada on their marketing and digital strategies mainly. So I also had the opportunity to work on quite a few teams at John Deere, so working down with the US and trying to make sure that the Canadian market was very well represented within all of their marketing and communications. So that's my background. And
You have to say that.
I also, in 2013, I was recognized as a TELUS Future Leader by the WXN, or the Women's Executive Network, Top 100. So that was for both my leadership, I guess, with youth and 4-H, and also I have a network that I formed for women in agriculture that was my first foray into forming a nonprofit. So I've been down this path, although this is first to be back in the community. So I'm very excited to be here. It's been a goal of mine to move back to Grey Bruce and to be part of helping this region thrive. And so yeah, thank you.
Sounds like we're very fortunate to have you, and Councillor Gamble, she's got the right color of paint, eh?
Excellent. So it has been an amazing year so far. There's been a lot of planning, and like we said during the Sydenham campus update, 2020 is really where we hit the ground running. We have the plans in place, we have the people in place, and now we will have a program that is a first to come to rural Ontario, and we couldn't be more proud of that. So with the license, we will have all of the materials to be able to use. We get on-site training from Innovation Guelph, and actually Jennifer took a call with Innovation Guelph this morning again, because it's a very constant communication happening right now, and that remote support will continue over the next several months. The Board of Directors has executed the agreement with Innovation Guelph to be able to do this, and the intent is to purchase the license and begin training right away so that they can launch in January. So in terms of legal and legislative requirements, again, thanks to Michael showing us how we can do this, because we didn't budget for it in 2019 because we weren't sure if we would be ready or not, but she got us there. So we are ready to go. So the money is currently in reserve from the donated funds that we did receive in 2019. So it is fully funded from those reserves that came forward, but we'll look for your permission to be able to actually forward this money to Catapult and get the program on the ground.
Sounds great. Any questions from county councillors? Councillor Desai.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I looked through this program a bit, and it's really a good program, and I'm really happy it's coming to the Grey Bruce area. Another program that I've looked at in the past is called the Renew program. It's used extensively in Tecumseh. It's used in Minto quite a bit as well. My question through you to Savannah is there a possibility of Grey County purchasing the license to that program through its Business Enterprise Centre or otherwise, and implementing that throughout the lower tier municipalities?
Through you, Warden, it's not something that we have looked at yet, but it doesn't mean that we can't look at it. So we will take it back as staff and take a look, and we can let you know what the thoughts are.
Any further questions from any councillors? If not, it's moved in second. All in favor? That is carried. All right. Thank you for that. Thanks, Jennifer. Savannah? All right, moving on to our agenda then. The next item is also, you're not leaving, the Sydenham Capital RFP. Go ahead. No, I need to move her in second. Oh, sorry, I gotta do that. Councillor Burley, Councillor Mackey. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm going to bring Steve up this time because he has really been the lead on our Sydenham renovations and the grant funding that we're looking at. Excellent. So, as you noted in the report when we brought it in October about the Sydenham campus update, we said that we were looking for other funding opportunities, and we had 2 different applications in, one provincially, one federally. Recent contact with one of these funding programs has suggested that there may be an opportunity for us to receive that funding. We have absolutely no yeses, we have no guarantees, so I just want to make that clear, but there is the potential. They are reviewing it now, and they asked what could we spend by the end of March 31st. So we went digging into the budget to find out what were we going to do anyways based on that report that we brought to you, and what could we actually complete before March 31st if we were able to get this funding. So this report is really about being able to spend those dollars and do this project at an accelerated pace. So it's nothing that we hadn't already planned on doing. It's just if we can do it before March 31st and we can leverage this as potential funding if we are approved for a grant, let's do it, because it's up to the $310,000 that we didn't spend this year in hopes that we would be successful with a grant application in 2020. So that $310,000, it is the unspent dollars from 2019. We will know that actual number by the end of the year when all of our invoices come in, but that is our best estimate right now on what that unspent funds will be. And it has been carried forward in the 2020 budget, but again, you're not going to see that until the middle of February, and trying to get major renovations done in 6 weeks just likely isn't doable. So we would like to be able to issue those quotes and those tenders as soon as possible to be able to get in the pipeline for contractors that we can do this work that we were already planning to do on that accelerated schedule. If we are successful, the county will receive up to 50% of those dollars. And I would just like Steve to talk a little bit about what that funding looks like and what the program looks like to give you a little bit better idea of what that really means.
Oh, okay.
So obviously March 30th year end, it's this level of government's year end budget that they're trying to find. The original application was 3 years, and it was for operating capital, and it included the county and the catapult budget. So it was a very involved application originally, but because we submitted it, it's still active, and that's why they can go back retroactively. So if they find the dollars and they bless us, that would be great. We don't know whether it'll be for 1 year or 3 years. It sounds like it might be one, and I say might. So we're just getting, as we said, we're just getting our ducks in a row to be ready to spend the maximum amount and take full advantage of what we could do. And of course, it's stuff that we're already planning to do. So things are looking good over there. If you haven't been over, I think some. Yeah, so roofs don't look sexy because you don't get to see them, but I don't get to clean up the water, which is nice. Anyway, sorry. Does anyone have any questions, further questions?
Is there any questions for Savannah or Steve? Motion's on the floor. All in favor? That's carried.
Good afternoon, Warden County Council. The first report today is just on our public access defibrillation program enhancements that we're looking to do. So the recommendation is that we include funds in the 2020 budget to provide supplies to sites that are part of our public access defibrillator program, being pads and batteries, and then also for us to move forward with implementing a public access defib loaner program. So each year, there's at least 40,000 cardiac arrests occur in Canada. About 80% of these happen outside the hospital. Of those, probably 50% of them are in electrical rhythm that potentially could be shocked. So number one is of this sudden cardiac arrest is sudden arrhythmic death. And without a defibrillator being applied in CPR, for every minute that goes by, the likelihood of bringing those people back decreases by about 10%. So at 6 minutes, you already lost 60% of your chance of being resuscitated. But with the immediate implementation of CPR, which is really key, and then also being able to apply defibrillation when it's required, there's a big chance, or a really good chance, that there will be a conversion. You see in places where they apply these defibrillators quickly, quite often when the paramedics arrive, the people are talking to the paramedics when they arrive. So in AED, they've been around for a long time. I was saying earlier that I started in 2002 teaching this with the exact same unit of people. Most of them are in their 60s in a campground in Huron County. And it's just kind of grown numerous places since then. They're small, they're portable. Once it's turned on, it talks you through all the processes. What it does is it reads the electrical activity that's happening, and if a shock is required, and only if a shock's required, it'll generate a shock just by you pushing the button, but it also prompts you to do CPR and keeps you going with the right rate and the right depth of CPR as well. They take minimal amount of training. And when we'll talk about it in a few minutes, but our communicators at London Dispatch, they're actually trained to talk people through this. They've never had any training at all to use them. They're very, very simple to use. The training is now included in CPR and first aid. It's actually a core competency for them to go through that, to review it. And it's really becoming, it's almost as equivalent to having a smoke alarm. And to tell you the truth, I really think it should be in every home. Eventually, if they could get the price point down where people could have them there, because that's where most of them happen, that's where they should be. But for now, they're most beneficial in public sites where there's large groups of people gather, where there's fitness activities occur, where people with high-risk individuals commonly gather. You could say it could be a local hall where there's multiple people that are older aged, those type of things. Golf courses, arenas, schools. We have a PAD program here, and it's been operational for quite some time. And we have them throughout the community in halls and churches and schools, industrial sites. There's 148 AEDs as a part of our program in the community right now. 104 of those were donated through the Heart and Stroke Chase McEachern Fund. And then there's been also other ones that have bought them and become part of our program since then. In the last year alone, we've had 3 successful saves by use of a public access defibrillator, which is pretty neat. These people have actually left the hospital and are doing well. So for places that are part of our program, we provide the initial training and ongoing operational support if they need assistance with purchasing supplies, as well as follow-up if the AED is used. We track their pad and battery expiries, and that it is quite onerous in doing that, trying to get people to ensure that they keep these things operational, because I'd say that's probably one of our biggest risks if they go to use it and the pads and batteries are expired and it won't work. So we have to keep on top of that. That's one thing we're trying to do and do a better job at. We also, in our computer-aided dispatch, we actually provide the locations of all the public access defibs in the county. So if they call in at a local arena, they know the walk-to directions to get it. So when they can talk the caller through where to pick it up. Because one thing to say it's at an arena, but to actually say where it is and how to get there is another thing. So they actually have that information in the premise or the computer-aided dispatch tool. So for budget consideration, what we're looking to do, and this will really help us streamline this and hopefully get people to come to us, that we would still be able to oversee this. They still own the defibrillator, but if we were able to provide the pads and the batteries, and then we would use this program to track those batteries and pad expiries, we think we'd have a better handle on that. The pads expire after 5 years for adults and 2 years for pediatrics, and the batteries are good for 5 years as well. So what we're proposing is that where it makes sense, we would have pediatric and adult pads. For other places, we would have adult pads. I talked to Ottawa, who has a fairly comprehensive program, and that's generally what they do, is where it makes sense, they supply it, they have those there. And also, as far as the vendor goes, the cheapest vendor has a program called Track My AD available, and it's free. And they also have operational support that'll help us with that too, so that by buying these, and they're the cheapest of buying the pads anywhere, that comes with them for free. So we'd like to take advantage of that if we could. So that's the one, that's a 2020 budget consideration. The next is something new for us, not new in communities. We took this model from Dufferin, and also Wellington County, our neighbors, are doing this. And what this would allow it to do is for a short-term borrowing of a public access defibrillator. We have 2 spares of our own right now that we have available. And what it would be is on a first-come, first-served basis that somebody from the public could come in and request these. We'd provide initial training with them, a short training with them, and then there'd be a liability release. And they'd have to have a driver's license and those type of things. But what it would be is they'd be able to take it out to these special events, and if cardiac arrest to happen, it would be available to them at that site. The borrower will be responsible for the AD while it's on loan. Something that is new right now is it's before the provincial government and the legislature. It's Bill 141, which is the Defibrillator Registration and Public Access Act. This is brand new. It's had it's been referred to Standing Committee on Social Policy. It's had 2 readings now, and it's out for comment. And what this is going to do is impose requirements around installation, maintenance, testing, and availability. And it goes back to the whole thing with the defibrillator. Typically, I don't know of any cases as far as using a defibrillator where there's problems, but it's if they're not maintained and not ready to go and those type of things. So this is going to look at addressing some of those issues. And it's going to ensure that sites that have a defibrillator are registered. So we'll look to see where that goes with that bill. So for us, if we supply these pads and batteries, we'd have to update our agreements with these different sites. And the cost roughly is about $9,300 a year to do that. And the defibrillators that we have right now, there's no need to buy other ones, that we already have them in our current supply. Any questions?
Thanks, Kevin. Questions? Councillor Millen.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Kevin, you said there's 148 devices throughout the county. Are those strictly public locations? I would think there'd probably be other locations in private organizations. Do we know where those are?
We don't have a complete registry of every one, no.
So is the idea of this, the bill or the legislation, is it to bring those into the public realm, so to speak, or the knowledge where they are?
I can't say for sure, but just looking at that, looks like any site that where there is, they define what an owner is, and that they would register that they're there.
Thank you.
I just hope that bill doesn't defer people.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions then from county councillors? Councillor Desai.
Thank you, Your Worship. My concern, and I have spoken to Kevin about this, is with regards to the liability aspect of it. Kevin forwarded me a piece of legislation where it does talk about an individual acting in good faith in an emergency without reasonable expectation of a reward or a compensation. My question is, all of a sudden we are now a municipality that is giving these units to people who could potentially be under-trained to use these. And I mean, I saw how it worked. It seems pretty foolproof. Councillor Millen also figured out how to work it, so clearly it is foolproof. But the question, again, is are we opening ourselves up to liability that we are currently protected from? Because we know joint and several liability doesn't really work in the best interests of municipalities.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not an expert in the liability realm of this, and I just know that it's been done in other municipalities, and also the fact is just about the ease of use, and then we also have the Chase McEachern Act as well. So I'm not aware of any legal issues with municipalities for doing this, but again, potentially there is a risk for that if that was to happen.
I don't know, Mike, do you have any comments?
I haven't had the opportunity to look, excuse me, at this in detail, so I couldn't give a definitive answer one way or the other at this point, but I could do a deeper look if that was council's wish.
Thank you.
Thanks, Warden. I suspect the 3 people that walked into hospital as a result of the AEDs are glad that we took on a little risk.
Yeah, the whole program is very positive. Like that's one thing is that, you know, this truly is life and death saving, like, because it does make a difference, especially in areas that are underserviced. We know that, you know, this year we're doing really well in our response time for cardiac arrest for over 6 minutes. We're over 50% now, which is really good compared to where we were not meeting the standard before. But even that though, half the time we're not there in 6 minutes. So anywhere, especially if the public event is held somewhere where we're not in an urban area, it does bridge that gap.
I think, Kevin, you had a question?
I have a comment. On the liability side, I'm more worried about a lot of these organizations acquired these units through us, and we have gone out and inspected these units and stuff, and I think sometimes they believe that we're checking the battery, we're checking the pads, and then I'd be worried if something did happen and they were expired, that there'd be a thought process that the county had a responsibility in this as well. So I've kind of been supporting Kevin on this. I think it helps reduce our liability in some ways.
Proactive. Councillor Suever.
Yes, I presume, and I thought I heard you say that we are gonna have a waiver, so if somebody is borrowing one, that, you know, any use and everything would be covered by a fairly comprehensive waiver, which should limit our liability. I believe I heard you say that. Is that correct?
Yeah, we actually, as part of this program, Dufferin was kind enough to share us with those documents. And again, if we get permission to go ahead, they'll be shared with Michael and we'll be able to go through them. And
Any further questions from county councillors? Motion's on the floor. All in favor? That's carried. All right, the next one, Kevin, don't run away, is the community paramedic program expansion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Robinson, second by Councillor Potter.
so this is a positive.
Sorry.
Was beeping. It's a positive update for our community paramedic program. We've been from the Southwest Lynn, we received funds to move our community paramedic program till at least till March 31st, 2020 to 7 days a week. Our community paramedics, we've had this program in place now since January of 2015. It started at 7 days, and then in February of 2017 we had to shut it down because of lack of funds. And then in the summer of 17, the Lynn approached us again and gave us enough funds to run it 5 days a week. And we were gracious for that. At least we were able to run the program. But there has been gaps identified, like when you're treating people on a Monday and you're not back until Wednesday, there's kind of that day off where you're not able to follow up. And it also limits the number of patients we can have as well, because the more days we're available, the more people we can see on a regular basis. So the paramedics, they play an important role with these patients. They're all considered vulnerable. And the reason why that is they all typically suffer from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which is emphysema or bronchitis, congestive heart failure, or diabetes, or generally it's a combination of any of those disease processes. And they've all been hospitalized, and they've been in emerge and spent multiple days in the hospital. So they're really more of the sicker people that end up in the community. What we do is we provide home visits, and we have treatment medical directives that are through their primary provider to treat them in their home and hopefully keep them out by treating them early in their disease process. So if they start to get sick from an infection, that we can give them antibiotics and prednisone in their home, or if they start to retain weight and fluid, we can give them Lasix water pills and stuff like that. The whole idea is if we treat them early, we'll keep them out of the hospital and be able to keep them in the comfort of their home. So the Grey County Community Paramedic Program, we received the funds for the 2019-2020 year to go 7 days a week. And what this allows us to do is to add additional patients, and also we're looking at adding another healthcare organization. We've had discussions now with SOHAC about bringing them on. We're just working through some agreements. They'd like to bring on 10 patients with us, some people in the community that have those type of disease processes. So we're looking forward to that relationship. To give you an idea, I don't think I've ever presented the council, like the new council of all, what the community paramedic program entails, so I just kind of give you a bit of an update of what we do out there. The first one is paramedic referral. It's for patients that are over 65. We have an evaluation screening tool that's been developed back in 2012. It's called PARIL, Paramedics Evaluation of Elders at Risk of Independence Loss. And it's a quick screening tool. There's 4 questions, and if they answer 3 or 4 out of 4 of the score, we have the paramedics offer a referral to the Lynn Home Care, and that's to get them more support in their home. One of the questions what is around risk, and regardless of the score, if the paramedic feels that they're at risk in the home, if they have that, then they can offer a referral. New in September of this year, we've moved to 211 referral as well, so we're trying to broaden those referrals out, and that's socioeconomic support. So we're really looking forward to see what benefits that brings people as well. The home visit program, which brings is the majority of our work that we do out there on the road with patients. We have highly skilled community paramedics. They receive additional training. They provide in-home treatment to prevent the disease from progressing. And again, it's focused on people with congestive heart failure, diabetes, and COPD. And it focuses also on patients that can't get out of the house, can't travel well. So we have a lot of people, especially around doing blood work and stuff like that, that aren't able to get out and get their tests done, that we can do it right in their home. And these paramedics, they've been reassigned to these positions now, and they work in that capacity. So with the training that they get, it greatly increases the skill set that they have. We carry antibiotics, 8 different types. We have different puffers like Ventolin and Atrovent to relieve them when they're having difficulty breathing. Prednisone, which is a steroid, really helps them breathe in the first couple days if they have an infection. We can start an IV. We give Lasix, which is a water pill. We can give that IV as well for people that are really end-stage heart failure to help keep them in their home a little bit longer. If we do their blood work and their potassium's low, we can give them potassium. And this year we just added the flu shot. So it's actually pretty significant for people that never would get out. We can actually give them the flu shot right in their home. We can adjust insulin levels if their sugars are up or down through the family physician. Again, a lot of this is through consultation with the family physician. We do blood work right in their home. We have a machine called an iStat analyzer, and it does what they call a basic metabolic plan. So we draw the blood. There's a cartridge that fits in a computer, and it gives us their sodium, potassium, we're able to tell their kidney function, what their hemoglobin's like, what their blood sugar is. It helps us build that story if we're going to keep them at home or transport them. And we also do INR checks, which is really your thickness of your blood when you're on Coumadin. And if somebody's INR is off, generally it's 2 to 3 week or 4 week testing, that we test it and we can adjust it through the physician, their levels of Coumadin before we leave. We also have the ability to do a urine analysis, so we can check to see if there's urinary tract infection, and we actually carry the antibiotics to treat that as well. One of the big things we have, though, is we have the opportunity to be in their home, and we get to assess their home for risk factors, falls. We can see if they have food in the fridge. We can provide if they're hoarding, if they have different concerns that are from the home, and we're really that linked to the primary care provider. And I can't say enough about the Owen Sound Family Health Organization. That's the group that we're affiliated with for the home visit program right now. The physicians there have been like second to none. They do this for us day in and day out. We have a physician available to us every day we're on, they're on, 12 hours a day. So we start at 7, we can reach a physician until we go home at 7 o'clock at night, because we have to be delegated to for these different treatments. The next part is remote patient monitoring. We started this program probably just after our home visit program, and we look at the same patients, COPD and CHF, and some people with diabetes and hypertension. What it does is allows us to put equipment in the home to monitor blood pressure, oxygen saturation, their weight, primarily their heart rate. And what we do is we build in parameters based upon when we figure out where they are at normally. And if they drop below or above those thresholds, it creates an alert. And I get it on my phone, we get it on our computers, and then it starts us with a conversation to start by a phone call. How are you feeling? If you notice that they put on weight, if it's a kilogram over 24 hours or 3 kilograms in 7 days, it'll create an alert, and you call them up, and if they're starting to put on weight, it'll start the process of going to see them and seeing if they need their water pill adjusted. So really positive results from that. That program also allowed us to be outside of the Owen Sound Family Health Organization. We were able to deliver that program across Grey County. We didn't have the same luxuries of the medical direction, because we're not affiliated with the physicians the same way, but it still allows us to be able to assess the patients and provide feedback to the physician. The next one, the community clinics. This is a real partnership for us at the county, working with housing. They play an important role with this. And also we work with McMaster University. So what we do is we offer free weekly clinics in our housing buildings. We're in Owen Sound and Thornbury, and we hope to move to Meaford here soon. And what we do is we assess blood pressure. We assess any types of risks in their home, falls risks. We do health promotion, healthy eating. We get the good food box for them. Some of them are upset they need their room painted. We'll talk to them about that and get them connected to the right people. And the people from housing have been great. They work with us every day that we're there, you know, providing these people help in their homes. So we have probably about 80 to 100 patients that come to that between the three sites, or between the two sites right now. For staffing and training, this was a bit of a tough year for us. We did lose a couple paramedics that went back to the 911 job, and one paramedic, he went to the LHIN to actually help them develop a program for the whole Southwest. So it left us short-staffed, but the LHIN did give us some money for training, and we found a new way of doing it that was significantly less. So now we have 3 people trained and certified, sort of for a total of 5, and we got 3 more in training. So we're happy with that. We hope we never end up in this situation again, but it has been corrected now. And if there is any additional funds from this last bit of money, we'll continue training to get more people certified. But yeah, we definitely had a bit of an issue, but we've corrected that now. So for our base funding from the LHIN, we get $262,600, and the LHIN till the end of March 31st, they gave us an additional $101,400. And it's amazing how this math worked out, but the amount of money they give us is the amount of money it costs us to run 7 days a week for a year. So that's and that's at this year's budgeted rate. So it's the exact amount of money, and it is. I don't know how it's a coincidence, but it did work out pretty close. But anyways, we're happy for that. The only thing is if it's for 7 days a week, we'll have to get more funding to go beyond that, beyond March 31st. So we're gonna have to be careful how we bring patients on, because we don't want to bring them on too quickly and do a bad job. We want to make sure, so we'll still continue to bring them on. I feel we can still bring SOHAC on and give that to a really population I think that needs our assistance. And then hopefully we'll begin conversations in January to ensure we can get money beyond that to keep it 7 days.
Thanks, Kevin. Are there any questions to the report? Councillor Millen?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And the question isn't directly linked to your report, although it was very good. Thank you. It was, are you as the paramedic service involved with the application for the Interior Health Team for this region?
From Grey County, both our long-term care as well as paramedic services were both signatories to that assessment that went in. So I think there's a real recognition that downstream interventions like community paramedicine are super important as they try to deal with hallway healthcare.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Kevin. There's a motions on the floor. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, thank you. Moving on then to the Kilsyth plan of subdivision, and I think Scott was going to do it. So come on up, Scott. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Burley, Councillor Hicks.
Great, thanks Warden McQueen and members of council. I will say it's tough to follow up paramedic services with discussions on saving lives with planning reports, but this is a good news story of a different kind, if you will, and it's a good news story for Georgian Bluffs, the community of Kilsyth, and the county as a whole. What we have before us is a property that's located, I guess, just southwest of downtown Kilsyth. It's about 17 hectares in size, and for those of you familiar, it's on Grey Road 5. Directly across the road to the north is the former Derby School site, which has since been, the school has since been taken down. And the proposed development here is of a plan of subdivision, and we've got that coming up on the next slide. Just before I move to the next slide, I will say it's a mixture of residential lands nearby. There's some farmlands that are outside of the settlement area. To the northwest there, you can see a campground, and immediately to the southeast of the subdivision is the existing community center. What's being proposed through this plan of subdivision is a 33-lot plan of subdivision. There are 2 blocks that are needed for stormwater management purposes. There's some road widening being considered. As well, there's an open space block which would be directly abutting the community center. And I will say that Georgian Bluffs is just right now going through their recreational master plan, which is looking at their parkland needs across the township. And I know the developer has been in touch with township staff to talk about what the future recreation needs might be with respect to this development and the community of Kilsyth as a whole. Oh, I should also note that the majority of the new lots will be coming off of the new road that's being developed through this subdivision. There are 5 lots that are requiring access onto the county road, and we have been working very closely with our County Transportation Services Department as part of the pre-submission consultation and the development review process of this subdivision. A lot of the stuff has already been covered. I should note that there was an associated zoning amendment and official plan amendment which have just recently been passed by the township and the county respectively. In speaking with township staff this morning, they noted that the appeal deadline for the zoning amendment was yesterday, and to their knowledge, no appeals had been received at this point. There were a number, as with any subdivision, a number of technical studies done in association with this development. There was also an extensive peer review of the servicing and stormwater work that was done on behalf of the township and the county. The proposed method of servicing for this development is via private wells and septic systems based on the existing servicing levels in Kilsyth. We did have a good public meeting on September 4th, 2019 at the township, and although there were a lot of people in attendance at that meeting, there weren't any concerns raised at that time. We have had concerns throughout the process raised by a number of members of the public. There's been some comments about the roads and the traffic and pedestrian safety on those roads and the speed limits through Kilsyth. Comments about the wetlands, comments about what the construction would be like and whether or not there'd be disturbances through there. Lots of comments on well water quality and quantity, as well as the safety of installing new wells and septic systems here. Comments that broadband would be greatly appreciated in Kilsyth, and general comments with respect to parkland and drainage. We did get comments as well from a number of agencies, as I said, including the peer reviewer. Generally speaking, the agency comments have been addressed through the conditions of draft approval. There was a staff report that was submitted from the City of Owen Sound who raised some questions about servicing in this development. We've responded directly to the city's comments in our county staff report, and county staff are satisfied that the servicing proposed is safe, as demonstrated through the peer review, and also is consistent with the policies in the provincial policy statement and conforming to the county plan. With respect to the county plan and the township plan, this is a designated settlement area. It's designated as secondary settlement area in the county plan. The associated official plan amendment redesignated it to residential and environmental hazard in the township plan. And as I said, there is lands being considered for future open space or parkland needed. With respect to the major concerns that were listed by members of the public, the peer review has generally satisfied the comments with respect to servicing and wells. And with respect to the comments about safety and the speed of cars going through Kilsyth, we've been talking with our Transportation Services Department, who have noted that they could look at pushing the 50-kilometer-an-hour speed limit further west, at least to the western boundary of this subdivision, to help ensure that that hopefully vehicles slow down a bit. With respect to 33 new lots, both township and county staff were satisfied that those could be sustained based on the existing service levels of both the county road and the township road in that regard. I will note that this application was received under the old official plan, but in doing our staff review, we've reviewed it under both the 2012 official plan as well as our new recolor gray official plan. As such, we're satisfied that it conforms to the county and township plans. It has regard for matters of provincial interest under the Planning Act and is consistent with the provincial policy statement. As such, we're recommending that the addendum report be received and that the subdivision be draft approved, and that the comments that went into this subdivision, both from the agency and public, did shape the review process and end up shaping the subdivision itself, so we're satisfied in that regard. Certainly be happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thanks, Scott. Any questions from county councillors? Councillor Kettner.
Thank you very much for your report and through the warden. Very, very interested in the fact that Kilsyth has attracted a small subdivision here. And my question is, where on the spectrum of affordable housing do these units fit?
Sure, thank you for your question. Unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for you. At this point, it's not knowing what the range of housing prices will be. In speaking with the developer and their agent, and I should have mentioned the agent, Ron Davidson, who is the planner for the developer, is in attendance here today. It's not anticipated that these units will be affordable based on the fact that the lot sizes are a little larger and the servicing levels. There is potential down the road that some of these units might have secondary suites in them, but at this stage, there's certainly been no promises made with respect to affordability. But the final selling price of the homes is not yet determined.
Okay, Councillor Boddy.
Thank you, Warden McQueen. I'll hit the prices first. The same builder is building some townhouses just along by Zares, which wouldn't be, I would suggest, the cream of the crop of the neighborhood, and they start at $446. Now, it may be, his independent homes are probably in the $700,000 range in Owen Sound, but that might be just because he has to pay for services like water and wastewater and those things that we have to charge, that obviously they don't have to charge when you put in 33 homes in, that's urban development in a rural setting with water and with septic beds. And across the street he's bought the school, so that'll be coming soon. When you guys, when Kevin reports in a couple of weeks that your assessment is going up and you're biting up more of the county's load and costs and ours is dropping, and you're PO'd about it, think of this moment, because how do we compete in the city of Owen Sound or Hanover or other places where we have to put in sewer systems, we have to put in water, and just outside our door we can put in 33 lots on inappropriate services. I have trouble believing that this meets the provincial policy statements, but we know how the vote will go. I think this is bad planning. And again, you even go back a few years ago when Cobble Beach had to put in their water and wastewater system, and then there's going to be a subdivision proposed of 68 houses just down the street on the same thing. How is Cobble Beach supposed to compete in the exact same neighborhood? So this is today's modern planning, I guess, but I don't think it makes sense.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Are there any other comments from around the floor? Oh yeah, sorry, Councillor Hicks, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor McQueen. There appears to be 5 existing residences along County Road 5, and from what I can see from the picture, there appears to be maybe it's a barn. I can't tell if it's a farmhouse or a barn. Is that an existing place, and is that going to remain? Your mic. Oh.
Sure, there are some existing houses along County Road 5 there. With respect to the barn, there's a barn to the south of the property that's outside. I'm not entirely sure where you're talking about in terms of the barn on County Road 5.
So it's off County Road 5. It's to the west of the existing 5 homes, and it looks to be right along the roadway.
Oh, okay.
Keep to the right, to the right, to the right, to the right.
Corner?
Pointer, more to the right, to the right.
Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry about that, I'm a little slow today. There was a barn on the property. That barn has since been removed. Interestingly enough, in their environmental studies, the one thing that led, one of the things that led to a sort of a delay in that barn being removed is when you look at removing an old barn now, it has to be investigated for endangered species habitat because there is a breed of bird that likes to nest in old barns like that. So that barn and the old farmhouse have since been removed from this development.
Mr. Warden, my second question. So if we're looking at the 5 homes in the northeast corner, between the one sort of number 3, there you see the yellow line going right up to County Road 5. And it seems to be very narrow. You can go back to the other picture. Oh, you can't see the, well, it's blue up on that screen. But do you see what I mean? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the corner. So if I'm counting from left to right, 1, 2, 3, between 3 and 4, there appears to be that yellow line going straight up to County Road 5. Is that some sort of an access point? Looks like maybe a walkway. What is that exactly? Oops.
Sure, through you, Mr. Warden. In this case, it's not being used as an access point. There was some confusion over why that original strip of land would have been left, whether it was meant to be a drainage easement or anything else. We are actually acquiring a small strip of county road widening along those lands, but it's not otherwise being used for access or anything else. There is some water that flows in that area, but that's sort of the extent of that strip of land. It's sort of a residual that's with the parcel, but it's unclear as to why it ever would have been left with that original parcel.
Okay, any further questions with regards to the report? The representatives from Georgian Bluffs wish to make any comments? 100%. Okay, the motion is on the floor. All in favor?
How close is it to the airport? We haven't heard about that.
I'll disregard that one. So the motion's on the floor. It's been moved in second. All in favor of the report? Opposed? That's carried. All right. Thank you very much, Scott. And then we move on. I think, Sarah, you're next. And this is with regards to a minor exemption. So come on up. The floor is yours. I keep forgetting that part. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Carleton, got it right. Councillor Millen, go ahead.
We good? Okay, there we go. Good afternoon. You didn't hear my good morning there. That's the type of day I'm having today. So we have another minor exemption application. This is one that is in Southgate, and it is Noah Shirk. And so he has requested to remove approximately 23 acres of trees and shrubs on a field that was once farmed. And his intent is to remove or return those lands back into agricultural production. So this was what, and I don't know if you can see it very well, but the red areas, the hatched areas, is what the request was from the applicant. And as part of the process, we circulate to the Conservation Authority, the municipality, our forestry bylaw enforcement officer, as well as neighbors. And as a result of comments, specifically from our bylaw enforcement officer, he suggested revisions in this case. And so you can see the original request there, and the purple area is what he is comfortable supporting based on the bylaw. This was for a number of reasons, including wetlands that he found on the property. A number of trees in the area not included were part of a larger forested area that he did not want to see fragmented. So that's basically what we are bringing forward for recommendation. But just to go on a little bit, as part of the process, as I mentioned, we did circulate. We received no comments from the public. We received no comments from the Conservation Authority. We received a comment from Southgate that they didn't have a comment. And then we did receive comments from our bylaw enforcement officer. So we are comfortable, planning staff are recommending approval of the minor exemption as based on, or as per the amended map this one right here. So if there's any questions.
Questions? Councillor Millen.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. This is the first I'm seeing of this, but that's fine, because our planner apparently had no issues with it. My question, or my comment would be, it's curious that our bylaw enforcement officer would deny some clearing of a portion of the request based on wetlands he found, yet Grand River Conservation Authority, who apparently is an authority on wetlands and water, had no comments. Can you help me with the discrepancy or apparent discrepancy there, please?
So the wetland, sorry, I shouldn't have called them wetlands. They were wet areas he referred to. There were not provincially significant wetlands on the property. There were other identified wetlands on the property, and the areas that he referred to were, he called them wetlands, but they were just wet areas. So I apologize for that.
Go ahead.
So it brings to mind the old saw that there's wetlands and there's wet land. They're not the same thing. Although I see from the report that Mr. Shirk is fine with the recommendation, so I'm not going to speak any more on this. Thank you.
Okay, and it could be the time of the year too.
Well, it's broken, so.
Any other questions to this recommendations? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Mike's next, regards to update of purchasing policy. Reports there. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Soever, Councillor Patterson. Mike?
Am I doing this right?
Yep.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm going to make things, change things up a little bit. I know you've had a long day, but nothing's more exciting than a purchasing policy update. So the report in front of you is just that. It's a purchasing policy update. I am going to, the report's quite short, but I will walk through a PowerPoint presentation. And I'll try not to bore you with too much history, but I've got hired by Mr. Kevin Wepler back in 2009 as the purchasing manager, and we quickly poached Sharon Melville out of transportation. She had been there for 10 years, so she's been a great resource to me. So it's been the two of us for 10 years. Prior to that, everyone was responsible for their own procurement. In 2010, we did the first policy update since 1993. So Kevin asked me to quickly get the policy up to date when I got here, which I did. We revamped it in 2014, and 5